Welcome to ED Debrief, where data meets the gurney. Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're embarking on a deep dive into a topic that really hits close to home for anyone on the front lines of healthcare. Firearm-related risks. Inside hospitals. Places meant for healing. We've had a really compelling mix of sources today. There's a powerful poem, some critical research on incidents that often go underreported, and even some groundbreaking tech solutions for, well, getting the data right. Our mission: to really try and understand what emergency staff go through, shine a light on some systemic challenges, and explore ways to make these environments safer, more transparent. And guiding us through this crucial material is our expert, an emergency medicine physician. Welcome. So we're starting our deep dive today with something pretty unique, quite personal actually. It's a poem titled The Quiet Shovel, which you actually wrote. It gives such a raw, unfiltered look at the ED. Can you maybe set the scene for us? What's the core feeling it starts with?
Yeah, thanks. What's really striking, I think, is how it opens by establishing the foundational ethos of emergency medicine. It says, "Our doors swing open to the sound of sirens. We make no judgment. We are here for all." It really emphasizes that suffering is universal. It doesn't matter about your status or circumstances. The politician, the man from the far hills, the prelate, and the person deprived of liberty, that means someone incarcerated or in custody, the poorest beggar. They all encounter the same hands, the same, well, chaotic duty. It's this commitment to everyone that defines the ED.
And the poem really leans into that ethical tightrope you walk, doesn't it? It says, "We treat the hostage, trembling and unbound, and then the shooter, bleeding on the ground. The victim and the villain are the same in here." How does that mission, saving lives without prejudice, kind of clash with maybe outside expectations or even just the day-to-day reality?
Well, it makes you ask, right? Can anyone really grasp that moral complexity unless you've lived it? That commitment to non-judgment, to treating every human life in crisis. It's the absolute bedrock of what we do. But yeah, it often clashes with the judgments and expectations from, outside the hospital walls. It has to be central to our work, though. We're faced with shattered flesh and fear, and our job is just to mend, to stabilize. Doesn't matter who caused the wound or who got it.
But then the poem shifts, right? It moves away from that, let's say, expected chaos to totally different kind of threat, a real sharp turn. It describes an incident. But yesterday, the threat was not a crime. It was a sound that shattered space and time. Not sickness, not a scream, but the sharp crack of metal and a groan. A rifle slipped, a single careless shot. That paints a really chilling picture of an accident.
And that specific stanza, it captures a very real risk, but one that's often not really talked about enough in healthcare settings. If you look at the bigger picture, the firearm risks in healthcare study points out that accidental discharges, well, they happen. It could be simple handling errors, even involuntary muscle stuff. The poem just illustrates so vividly how a careless shot, even if no one's fatally injured, can rip the air, a future nearly caught. It creates wounds, beyond the physical. It mentions bruises dark and deep from the mad scramble and the panic leap. The fact that it was a miracle of angles that stood off death, it just highlights the sheer luck involved sometimes, underscores that hidden danger.
Right. A miracle it wasn't worse.
Exactly. But those emotional scars, the fear, they definitely remain.
And that incident leads straight into the poem's critique of the institutional response, or maybe the lack of one. Who writes the SOP for when the threat is there? Who holds the shield when policy is bare? And then this is our question for the ones on high, who met this breach of faith with a closed eye. It really sounds like a call out of leadership. First off, SOP, what's that stand for?
SOP is standard operating procedure, basically the rule book for routine stuff. And yeah, unfortunately, that feeling in the poem, it's backed up directly by the firearm risks in healthcare study. The conclusion is pretty blunt. It says, firearm-related risks in healthcare settings are often underestimated and poorly addressed. It talks about a systemic failure. So, frontline providers face this exposure daily, but without consistent safeguards, accurate reporting, or responsive policy support.
Wow. So the support isn't always there.
Too often, the institutional response is reactive and administrative, which means the lived risk, the actual danger people feel, stays with the staff on the ground. It's exactly what the poem called drowning our urgent pleas in protocol and clause. It leads to that quiet shovel, digging day by day to bury the event.
Burying the event, that's powerful imagery.
Because the bureaucratic response often just misses the human impact, both immediate and long-term. Staff end up feeling like their safety isn't really the priority until something terrible happens.
And that feeling of betrayal, it comes through so strongly when the poem says, because no blood was spilled, no final price was paid. You act as if our safety was not betrayed. Even if no one died, the trust was broken.
That's exactly it. And research, like from O'Hagan and colleagues, confirms that impact. Even near misses, these non-fatal incidents, they trigger lasting anxiety, frustration, burnout. And it's especially bad when leadership responds with bureaucracy rather than action. It's this huge disconnect, right, between staff experiencing a critical safety breach and how it's handled administratively.
So staff feel vulnerable and maybe unsupported.
Both physically vulnerable and emotionally and psychologically unsupported, because those urgent pleas feel like they're just getting, like the poem says, drowned in protocol and clause. It can make people pretty cynical, feel like their well-being is just secondary to paperwork.
And it's not just abstract policy issues, is it? It's about actual weapons being present. You mentioned the Murray study confirming weapons are frequently brought into hospitals despite policies.
Correct. It's not theoretical. It's a concrete daily reality for many healthcare workers.
Okay, so thinking about all this,
Yeah.
how well are we actually capturing the scope of these incidents, especially the intent behind them? If near misses get buried, as the poem suggests, what else are we missing?
That really begs the question about data accuracy, doesn't it? How reliably do we even track why a firearm injury happened? There's a research paper, NLP and Machine Learning for Firearm Injury Intent, and it points out a huge deficiency. The traditional codes we use, ICD codes, International Classification of Diseases, they're the standard codes hospitals use for billing and records.
Like billing codes.
Yeah. Those codes often do not accurately reflect whether firearm injuries were caused by assault, unintentional injury, self-harm, legal intervention, or were of undetermined intent. It's a major systemic gap in how we track this stuff.
So the study basically says our main tool for tracking this is grossly inaccurate. If that's the foundation for surveillance and research, what are the ripple effects of that bad data?
That's the danger, precisely. The firearm risks conclusion also mentioned hospitals misclassifying assaults as accidents. It masks the true burden of intentional violence. This misclassification messes up everything, how we understand the problem, where we put resources, the prevention strategies we develop. Think about the Atlanta study insights you mentioned. Unintentional injuries might be fewer deaths, but they're a bigger slice of non-fatal injuries, often from routine handling, especially with younger guys.
Okay.
If our data just lumps an assault needing security together with someone cleaning their gun improperly, we lose all that crucial detail. Without accurate coding for intent, we can't see those nuances. We can't target prevention effectively, like promoting safer storage or specific handling training.
So we're kind of flying blind in some way.
In some critical areas, yeah. We can't distinguish the patterns properly.
Okay, so if the standard ICD codes are falling short, if our understanding of why is flawed, how do we get a better picture? Is there a more, sophisticated way to dig for these facts?
Well, this is where technology offers a really powerful step forward. That same study, the NLP and machine learning one, proposes using natural language processing, NLP and machine learning, or ML.
Okay, NLP and ML. Break that down a bit.
Sure. NLP is basically AI that lets computers understand human language. Think reading and interpreting text. ML is where computers learn from data without being explicitly programmed for every single rule. So the idea is to apply these techniques to the free text notes in electronic health records, the EHRs, the actual narratives clinicians write.
So instead of just relying on the preset codes, we're looking at what the doctors and nurses actually wrote about the incident.
Exactly. It moves beyond those limiting checkboxes and taps into the rich descriptions in the narrative.
That sounds like it could give much deeper context. How does it actually work? How does reading notes get you closer to the intent than a code?
It's about using the descriptive power of language. The study built a model that pulls out intent-related features from the text. It uses a special dictionary, a lexicon, and rules. So instead of just accident, the NLP might pick up phrases like patient stated gun fell out of holster or cleaning weapon misfired. For assault, maybe patient reports being shot by unknown assailant.
It's clever, too. It looks for confusion terms. Like, if the note mentions a police report, that doesn't automatically mean legal intervention because police might be involved in any type of incident.
Got it. Context matters.
Right. So this detailed contextual info pulled straight from the clinician's notes is fed into a machine learning classifier. And that determines the most likely intent of the injury. It lets us get the story behind the injury, not just the label.
That sounds incredibly promising. Did it? Did it actually work? Was it better than the old ICD codes? The results were really very promising. The NLP model was definitely more accurate in identifying the intent than did the International Classification of Diseases codes. To give you some numbers, at the place they developed it, the NLP model's F-score, which is a measure combining precision and recall, basically how well it gets things right without getting things wrong for accidents, was 0.78. It's pretty good. The ICD code score? 0.40. Big difference.
Oh, yeah.
And for assaults, NLP hit 0.90 versus 0.78 for ICD. And crucially, this improvement held up even when they tested it on data from other hospitals. So it seems robust, potentially generalizable.
Okay, so this isn't just academic then. Being able to reliably tell assaults from accidents, which are often misclassified, that seems huge for actual prevention efforts. What does this mean practically?
Practically, in the bigger picture, this kind of tech could fundamentally improve the accuracy of firearm injury surveillance and research. It means we can move beyond just counting things to really understanding why people are landing in the ED with gunshot wounds. For example, if we accurately see a spike in accidental injuries from unsafe storage, public health campaigns can target that. If we see more assaults in one area, that data informs community interventions.
So targeted action based on better data.
Exactly. It helps guide prevention, like promoting safer storage or handling techniques, the kind of things the Atlanta study also suggested. It shifts us from broad guesses to evidence-based, data-driven action. We can use resources much more effectively.
That potential is massive.
Yeah.
But were there any limitations, challenges with this NLP-ML approach? It sounds powerful, but science always has hurdles.
Yeah, absolutely. And the study was upfront about that. It brings up the need for refinement, generalizability. They noted small sample sizes for some intents, like legal intervention or self-harm. It's just harder for the model to learn those well without lots of examples.
Makes sense.
Also, differences in how hospitals document things, maybe over time, or just between institutions, like how much detail goes into a high info note. You know, those really detailed narratives clinicians sometimes write that could affect accuracy.
Right, documentation varies.
Which just underscores the need for larger and more diverse data sets. Using things like trauma registries for future research could help make these models even better, more robust, more universally useful.
This has been, wow, quite a journey. From the incredibly raw emotional truth in your poem, through the systemic failures highlighted by the research, and now looking at these cutting-edge tech solutions for better data, it really feels like the poem's final question, must your new policy be signed in death? Just hangs over all of this, doesn't it?
It really does. And the conclusion of that firearm risks in healthcare study offers a way forward that echoes the poem's plea. It calls for comprehensive safety policies in hospitals, accurate data reporting, and trauma-informed support systems. And it says these need to be prioritized before the next incident demands reform. Our whole talk about NLP and ML, that directly tackles the need for accurate data reporting. It's about making sure these incidents aren't just buried by that quiet shovel of looking the other way or inadequate systems.
Yeah.
It's about moving from being reactive, only acting after a tragedy, to being proactive, using data for prevention, truly protecting the people who care for all of us.
So boiling it down for our listener, it's really about shifting from just administrative box checking after something happens to using solid data proactively, supporting the front lines, and acknowledging those invisible wounds, the hidden truths. And reflecting on all this, the poem's ending, the data issues, may be a final thought for everyone listening. If we accept that near misses cause real trauma, and that our current systems often hide the truth, what steps could you take, maybe in your own community, your own workplace, to push for a culture where safety isn't just assumed when no blood was spilled? How do we make sure every potential threat, regardless of the outcome, gets acknowledged, properly recorded, and met with genuine action? Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive into firearm risks in healthcare, really sparked by the quiet shovel and some vital research. Thank you so much for your insights and for sharing that incredibly powerful poem.
It was my pleasure. These are tough conversations, but vital ones to have. We need to shed light on these issues and find better ways to protect everyone in healthcare settings.
Absolutely. We hope this deep dive has given you a fresh perspective, maybe some new questions to think about. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep digging deeper.